Hi guys, welcome to the Camper Dan Files. My name is Chris, and in today's video we're going to discuss whether or not if your R50 Pathfinder requires a lift in order to go off-roading. And I figured this would be a great opportunity to have this discussion with you guys. First off, I want to go ahead and dismiss that whole notion because it is not necessary for you to have a lift on your R50 in order to go off-roading. Will it help to improve your ability to tackle certain obstacles? Absolutely. Is it a requirement? Absolutely not. And I can tell you this firsthand because I have personally used my R50 Pathfinder on multiple trails without a need for a lift. In fact, it was one of the first things that I did with my R50 pretty much as soon as I acquired it. This was done primarily to test the off-roading capabilities of my R50 Pathfinder and to just give me a general idea of where things were at. It really didn't need it. This has been a topic of debate for quite some time amongst my R50 peers. Just to rewind things a little bit, before I even acquired my R50, I spent about 2 years doing a lot of research online and just picking the brains of other R50 enthusiasts that have been around and have dabbled and modified and lifted their rigs and done various things. And I did this in an effort to just figure out what was working for me and what was gonna need improvement. I figured out quite rapidly, my R50 didn't necessarily need a lift. Lifting your rig makes it a little bit more capable, but it's not a necessity. Ground clearance is one of those things you wanna make sure that you have above all else. But outside of the possible ground clearance issues, one might not necessarily need to have a lift. A lot of things concerning lifting one's R50 is going to need to be somewhat custom. For myself, I did a lot of homework and research, and I'm glad that I took the time to test things out first. And more importantly, I took the time to gain a better perspective and understanding of what things I was gonna need and what things I could do without. I take this thing off-road pretty much any and every chance that I get, and it's never disappointed me. I've always been thoroughly pleased with its performance. The most important aspect of being able to take your R50 off-road is having good tires. Some people treat having tires as like a last resort type of thing. A lot of us will put lifting the R50 ahead of placing good and adequate tires on the rig, me included, because it was one of the last things that I did post-lift. It was also the most expensive, and maybe that's one of the reasons why a lot of people tend to leave the whole tire equation for last minute, because we're hyper-focused on taking care of everything else that might not necessarily be needed. But where it concerns off-roading, you definitely want to make sure that you have some good quality tires, something with some good aggressive tread, and more importantly, a nice strong sidewall, something that's not gonna pop the first time that you make contact with the edge of a rock or something. You want it to be somewhat robust. Before you even get to any of that stuff, you want to get caught up on your maintenance. And I'll say it again, it's very important. Spending all that time, effort, and money to lift your R50 to go take it off-road only to find out that it's not reliable, that's not the way you want to do things. You want to take as much time as possible, spend as much money as necessary to get your maintenance caught up, get all of your necessary repairs caught up before you start lifting your R50. I typically go camping once a week. If I have the time and the opportunity to, I'll also go off-roading. Sometimes I'll do it in order to go camping, depending on where I'm going. Sometimes I'll go off-roading while I'm camping. So in other words, I'll camp somewhere where I have access to an off-road trail. I might do it before I camp. I might do it in order to get to my campsite. Or in many cases, I'll do it after I break camp. Just to, you know, be able to have some fun and break the monotony, if you will. Again, it's not necessary, but it is nice to have a lift, but it's definitely not necessary in order to take your rig off-roading. You'll see just how capable this rig is in its stock form. All right, so now that we have everything we need from Harbor Freight, I'm actually gonna go ahead and make a quick pit stop to get some firewood. I know it's been a few days since I released a video for you guys. I was planning on making a maintenance video for you guys concerning changing the fluid in my gearbox, but I've been kind of lazy this weekend. It is my birthday weekend. Today is actually my birthday. It's Sunday. So thank you guys for being patient. Hopefully I'll have this video out for you guys maybe tomorrow or Wednesday. I'm not sure yet when it's going to be released, but it'll be sometime this week. There, now I have lots of wood to burn. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on this subject with you guys because it is a question that I'm often asked. Do you have to have a lifted R50 to go off-roading? Or how much lift do you actually need to make it off-road capable? And the answer is zero. Zero lift needed. I know it sounds weird coming from me, considering the fact that my R50 is lifted. I'd be the first to tell you, I've seen quite a number of R50s in the junkyard that had lift kits on them, whether they were lifted with coil springs or the cheap and easy way, I guess, which would be to lift them with spacer lifts, which I am not against, but I'm not for spacer lifts. In the beginning, when I was doing my research to see how to go about lifting my R50, the spacer lift was going to be my go-to, but after reading countless threads on Empora, I found that those individuals, many of them ended up moving on to a coil-supported lift. Now, not saying that coils are the only things that one could use to lift their R50s, because I've seen some people use spacer lifts in conjunction with lift springs just to get the rig more level and to get it to that height that they were trying to achieve. The basic and most straightforward lift height that one should aim for with their R50 is going to be right around that 2-inch mark, because anything after 2 inches, things are going to get more expensive and a lot more complicated and more labor intense. Just so you guys are aware, you cannot take this rig to an off-roading shop and ask them to lift it. They won't know what to do. There's not much for supporting lift components for this particular platform. So you're gonna have to do your own research, and more importantly, you're gonna have to be okay with doing the work yourself, because you'll be very hard pressed to find someone or shop that's gonna wanna do it for you. And believe you me, I've tried. I'm sure that there's shops out there that can and will be willing to do the work. They might not be as knowledgeable as you, the customer. I've heard stories in the past of 4x4 parts, only to realize that those guys, they only specialize in lifting like pickup trucks, Jeeps, maybe your occasional forerunner. Outside of that, those guys don't have any experience with lifting any other vehicles for that matter. So it could get a bit tricky to achieve the results that you're looking for. So it'll be more beneficial for you to educate yourself as much as possible on how to complete the lift and do the work yourself. But for the R50 Pathfinder, it's a very, very, very limited amount of aftermarket support in regards to lifting your rig. Just to name a few, you have the Dobinson lift springs, front and rear. You also have AC coils that you can pick up at 4x4 parts. But that's going to cost you a lot more, especially if you're going to have it shipped to you. From what I heard in the past, they were charging a ridiculous amount of money just to have the parts shipped. I heard through the grapevine there on Empora that the AC lift coils or lift springs are actually essentially a rebranded lift kit that was made by Old Man Emu. So make sure you're doing your homework and your research, because if you're interested in Old Man Emu lift springs, it'll be better for you to get them from a reputable source or directly from Old Man Emu, as opposed to going through an entity such as 4x4 parts, because all they did was just simply rebrand them and jack up the price, and then they're going to charge you through the nose for shipping. Now, if you're like me, you can use any lift spring of your choice for the front end, and then just get you a cheap set of Land Rover lift springs for the rear. You can go with the tried and true 9447s, the 9448s, or if you're really looking to get as much lift as possible in the rear, you can go for the 9449s, and those are going to be the absolute heaviest lift spring for the rear. Many people have been using these springs and these particular setups. Where it concerns my Dobinson lift springs in the front and my Land Rover lift springs in the rear, which just happen to be a 9447 variety. So here we have our strut assembly side by side. You see the subtle differences. This particular setup that my R50 is currently riding on, it's been utilized by at least one other person. In fact, I just essentially copied what they did, minus things like shocks, struts, other various suspension components, like the 4-link suspension on the rear of my truck. I actually sourced those from Max Speeding Rods. All right, guys, so here's everything out of the box. I love the way that they perform, and they were a lot cheaper than getting OEM links or even an aftermarket, and the bushings were really, really robust. And I've been running those for a little over a year now, and things have been working out really, really great. Perfect. In fact, whenever I take the truck to a shop to get some work done, particular individuals that had the pleasure of driving my truck, they always compliment me on how good it looks and how nice it rides. Yeah, so it's the end of the road now, guys. We're at home. Gonna go ahead and park this beast, and I'll catch you guys later. All right, guys, so we're back at home now. I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here. So if you found today's video helpful, go ahead and give it a like. And while you're at it, don't forget to share, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, keep using your Pathfinder as a Pathfinder, on or off the pavement.